And I'm going to start us off this morning with shout outs, gratitude, brevity wins, all the fun stuff we like to start off. And we want to start off with a bang this morning at a different time. So go ahead and start raising your hands of who you want to shout out and what gratitude you might have. And sometimes it's gratitude for ourselves for just doing it. And brevity wins. Tell us how you're winning in brevity. And I want to start off that shout out with a shout out to Maria and Ashley in Austin. They have successfully closed number 25 for the year, which means Maria has again earned her and Ashley some health insurance that's subsidized by the company. So that's exciting. And we have a lot of people on that path this year, which is really, really awesome. Jaime, you're up.
Yes, thank you. I want to give a shout out to Esther Gomez on our team here in Houston. She's been on the team, I don't know, maybe a little over a month or not even a month. And last week, she converted 3 buyers and got, and all 3 of them are pre-qual. 2 of them are from Brevity. And that was awesome. So thank you, Esther, for your grit, for showing up every day and making it happen. And the next shout out is for Brian Williams with Brevity, who got one of his people on market reports, and they emailed him last night saying, hey, thank you for all the info. It looks like we're ready to make a move. So he has a listing appointment from that. So get everybody on some market reports.
Man, I love that. For everyone who doesn't know Jaime real well yet, he's in Houston. And I remember Jaime around this time last year when you joined the company, and you put all your database, and he came in with a big database. I don't even know how many, couple thousand people. And we just put him on market reports, and people were like raising their hands left and right, which I was like, oh my God, market reports work. What do you know? That was really cool. So thanks for sharing that. Great job, Brian Williams, and great job, Esther. Esther, welcome to the company. Anthony, good morning.
Good morning. This wasn't totally planned, Jaime. As a matter of fact, I was going to send a shout out to Esther for encouraging us to start off each Thursday with a $1,000 day. It came from her. So I wanted to show her some love for pushing us to be the best. So thank you, Esther.
Wow. I love that. That's a great shout out, Anthony. I love the diversity of our teams, right? Because we have seasoned agents and we have newer agents, and we have everyone building their business in the middle, right? And everyone has so much value. And Esther, who's brand new to the company, is already impacting her team there. So everyone has so much value. I love that. Helen, good morning.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I wanted to just shout out IS Plays, because I just started last week on the wealth building series that they started for the month of May. And I think it was Mr. Travis last week, and then Becca and her husband yesterday. But because of the Zoom last week, my husband and I have decided that we're going to keep our house that we were originally going to sell. And so now we're scrambling, we're trying to get it ready to rent out. And I'm so grateful for Place for just talking, I guess, that fear out of us, because we went back and forth for about 6 months about it. So super excited, extremely nauseous, but more excited than nauseous. And I just am very grateful to Place for being a platform that doesn't just teach us how to be agents, but teaches us how to really build something for our families. So
Helen, that is like a game changer right there. That's awesome. I'm so proud for you. Like, that's awesome. Congrats to you and your husband. And thanks for plugging in. Those Wednesday calls are just some of my favorites. Wealth Wednesday. I mean, at the end of the day, all of us making a lot of money, that's awesome. High five, right? And we can either get rich or get wealthy, right? And at the end of a decade, we can have either a really nice house, nice clothes, and nice car, or we could have a lot of assets. And the way we have assets is we turn that income into assets. And great job, Helen, just plugging in on that. Okay, well, it looks like that's everybody this morning. Houston, you really showed up this morning with all your shout outs. I love that. So this morning we have someone you all know, Chris Suarez. he's going to talk to us about the perspective around running a business, right? A profitable business, and the purpose of profit, right? And Helen, you just that was a good intro. Thank you. And how we designed our model to drive agent profit, right? And so I'm super excited. Those of you who have not watched Billions, I feel like you probably should. I was talking to Samantha right before this call, and she has not watched Billions. She doesn't watch a lot of TV, so she has something in common with Chris, but I do like TV, and I do watch Billions. And if you have watched Billions, Chris is like the male version of Wendy. Like every time I get on a Friday call, I'm so excited because I feel like my mind's gonna be turned inside out and I'm gonna be able to take action. And so it's, sometimes people speak to us and it's entertainment, right? And it's really great. We feel inspired, but there's no action behind it. And I think Chris, for me, is always someone that not only is the content really valuable, but I feel like I can take action from it. So this morning, I'm gonna go ahead and spotlight Chris, and we are so grateful. I know you don't feel you're not like having the most successfully healthy day ever, but thank you for being here.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. And I'm going to apologize up front for my voice and my coughing, but we're gonna power through it. I did not want to do this. So this is not what you normally hear on a Friday, but thanks for being troopers and being willing to sort of struggle through with me. I appreciate being asked to speak about this topic. And quite honestly, it's because from day one, I always thought that the purpose of business was to run a profitable business. Like I didn't understand why would we start a business if it wasn't to figure out what we were going to do with that profit. I think sometimes when we don't figure out what we want to do with that profit, Helen, then it's easy to just run a sales business and not equate the profitability to an outcome. And that is really what we're going to talk about today at length. I think if I was going to title our time together, it would probably be We Don't Talk About Profit. And so for anybody with teenage or little girls, you will get my one pop culture reference of my career, but I have heard that song probably 2,364 times. But today we're going to break that. We're going to break that and we're going to talk about profit. But maybe I'll just ask, why don't we like to talk about, let's start with money. Why don't we like to talk about money in general? No one wants to talk about it. Jen, you unmuted.
I was going to say, there's a lot of shame and there's often a lot of guilt. Like people feel guilty for not having any and they feel guilty for having too much, I think often is what happens. That's my thought.
Like Jen, I think that's perfect, right? No matter where we are in that money scale, we have guilt, or I think Andrew said we have insecurity. The reason why we don't talk about money is because we're just insecure about having it, insecure about not having it. Money makes people feel insecure. Now, I can't fix that, but it's important to address it and figure out, like, hey, am I insecure about it? Early on, I was incredibly insecure about money. And some might say even today, I have a little bit of insecurity about money. I don't talk about it around my family, right? My family doesn't know anything about my financial world. And that's because I was insecure when I made money because they didn't. So that can happen for sure. Or we're insecure about the fact that, gosh, we haven't done what it takes yet to create it, to build right money or build wealth. And there's two different things there that we're going to talk about. Now, here's what I want us to know. I believe that we have to understand the importance of money in our lives, and financial health is right up there with physical health. So we need to talk about it. Spiritual health. So we have to be willing to talk about it. Mental health. So we need to be willing to talk about it. And financial health. So we need to be willing to talk about it. At the end of the day, we could be incredibly physically healthy. We could be spiritually healthy. We could be mentally healthy. But if we're in a really bad spot financially, guess what? That's going to add stress. It's going to add arguments to relationships. It's actually going to affect the health of us physically, spiritually, and mentally. Sometimes when we're not in a place financially, healthy, we wind up skipping other things because we're willing to do anything just to make money. And so what goes first? Physical health, like actually any one of those three: physical, spiritual, or mental health. So today I want us to just, if we leave with nothing, just internalize the fact that our financial health is just as important. It ranks up there with our physical health, spiritual health, mental health, and financial health. And I think it's really great that over the last probably year or two, some of those are more out in the open, and we can talk about them freely without feeling insecure, right? Physical health. We don't have to be insecure. The reason why we don't like to talk about it is because if we're talking about it, it means that we're probably not where we want to be physically. Who cares? Right? The fact is if we talk about it, I was having a conversation yesterday with a partner, and she said, Chris, like, I'm embarrassed that I'm 60 pounds more than I should be. And I said, who cares? We're talking about it. So let's just talk about what we can do to get a little bit healthier each day. Same thing comes to financial health. So that's financial health, and why we don't like to talk about money. But what about profit? Like, that's a whole nother level. Like, even in our industry, some people like to talk about money. Some people like to like share GCI and take down awards, but why don't we talk about profit? What's the next level of insecurity? Why don't we talk about profit? Brandon?
I think, as business owners, that profit conversation might not be having had as often because it's a truth teller, right? You could have 5 million in GCI and have 100,000 in profit, and it forces business owners to put stress on their systems to look at where they might be failing, and it tells a different story. 5 million GCI sounds great. 100,000 profit off 5 million GCI, not so great, right? So I think it forces us to be accountable and maybe look at what the true story is in our businesses.
Yeah, I agree with that. And Jaime?
I actually think people don't talk about profit because they don't actually track it.
That could be an easy answer, right? We just don't know what that is. A big reason why we don't like to talk about it is because it involves decisions that we make. It's really hard to come to the table and explain why we made a decision with money. It's really uncomfortable. So one, we're generating money. Great. We work through that and learn to talk about it. But when it comes to profit, now all of a sudden people are going to know what we made decisions around. Like, what did we do with our money? And nobody, like, listen, if you're in a relationship, like the one way to start a fight is ask someone, hey, like, what did you spend on that? Like, come home with something. How much did that cost? Like, nobody likes that question, right? I've learned. I actually have not yet learned because I still ask it, but nobody likes that question. Like, nobody wants to be held accountable, Brandon, right? Nobody wants to be accountable to what they do with it. Now, here's what I want us to think about. The difference between being a real estate agent and being a business owner is our view of the flow of money. Our view of the flow of money. Laura?
One of the reasons that I can tell you from my personal experience, it was so hard to look in the mirror and actually take a look at profit. It's because it got in the way of my ego. GCI was really cool for my ego. Number of units of sales was really good for my ego. When I was forced to look at profit, it made me own up to wrong decisions, and none of us like to own up to the fact that we've made poor choices. So just from my personal experience, that its ego plays a huge part in that.
Yeah, I believe that the what stands in the way of great profit is us just being willing to have conversations about decisions we make. And listen, like, nobody likes to explain decisions because in the moment we made it. And now to go back, right? Profit's a backward indicator of the decisions we made. And so for any of us as real estate agents, as business owners, as people, getting called on decisions we make is a difficult thing. So the difference between a real estate agent and a business owner is the view of the flow of money. Now, my hope and intention is that every single person here is a business owner. It's interesting. Place does not look to partner with real estate agents, right? Real estate agents care about one thing, and they care about commission. We want to partner with business owners. Business owners care about one thing, and they care about profitability. It actually changes the conversation. And if it hasn't, then it's a good moment for us to reflect and say, hey, when I think about money, what do I think about? Do I think about a commission? Do I think about a split? Do I think about profit? That tells me right now, where am I? And that's fine. Like, where am I today? Am I a real estate agent today, or am I a business owner? If I really am looking at profitability, then I'm on my path to be a great business owner. If I'm really thinking about, gosh, split and then I'm a real estate agent, and I'm thinking about top line revenue. Because we're gonna walk through just a business lesson today around revenue and profit, and I hope it begins to change how we think about our own money and our own profitability and our own businesses that we're building on the platform that we are plugged into. Now, real estate agents care about leads and commissions. Would you disagree with that? Like, in fact, and it's okay if that's what you cared about when you first got here. Like, a lot of times people say, hey, I'm going to look at a team. I want to be part of a team because I don't know a lot of people, or I don't know how to generate leads. So if I get leads, then I'll get commissions. Like, that is their number one reason to join a team, right? Not necessarily ours, but in the industry. In fact, office owners and team leaders and recruiters will say, gosh, you're starting out, you need some leads. You should talk to Adelina. You should talk to Jordan. You should talk to, right? Like, you should talk to Tracy. She has a lot of leads. And that's the wrong thing to point people in the direction of, because that is the brokerage model convincing us all that we should stay as real estate agents. The fact is what we should really care about is building profit through leverage. So let's talk about leverage. I want to define it. And I want us to just all come to the table with the same definition of leverage. What is leverage? When you hear that word, what do you think of?
Freeing yourself up to do the things that are the best use of your time and money.
Okay. Yeah. Like, so leverage allows us to free ourselves up, to not do certain things, and then to do things that really drive income, right? Or drive revenue. What else is leverage?
Systems, tools, and people.
Yeah. Actually, in that order, Elizabeth, right? It starts with systems, it moves to tools, right? It incorporates models. If we just had systems, tools, and models, we would be a leveraged business owner. Then you layer in people at a certain level, and now your leverage allows you to increase your hourly wage. So business owners care about systems, tools, models, and people. So then as real estate agents in any environment, we have to ask ourselves, do I really understand the systems that I'm part of? Right? Do I really understand the benefit of the tools that are here? Do I understand the models, and do I follow those models? Because whether we realize it or not, we agreed, or we made the decision to invest in systems, in tools, and models. You're paying for systems and tools and models by being on a team. Sometimes we don't think about it that way. We just think about a split. But the reality is, all of us have said, hey, what are the best systems in the industry? What are the best tools out there in the industry? What are the best models out there in the industry? Am I willing to invest in those systems, tools, and models to deliver profit? Let me show you something that changed my mindset. And I'll tell you a little bit of a story as I was really building my business. I was the guy that did everything when I was a real estate agent. I mean, everything, right? Like, I got to about 60, 70 homes sold. I didn't have an assistant. I had no showing agent or buyer's agent. I didn't have anyone doing marketing. Like, I did flyers in the night. Like, and here's why. Because my mindset was, I came from nothing. So I'm not going to let any dollar go. I was unwilling to invest in my business because of my relationship with money. And I remember picking up MREA and thinking, this is crazy. Like, there's no way I'm going to be at a 40% profit margin. I'm at 80%. And I just kept along my way feeling like, well, I can beat that. I can beat that. I can beat, like, maybe that was competition as well. But this chart changed my perspective on what building a business is all about. And here's why. This shows up on page 157 of MREA. And as I made the transition from being a real estate agent to a business owner, I realized that if I was going to be a business owner, I had to commit to being willing to live in a 39, 40, 41%, 42% profit margin if I was going to build a business. Let me walk you through this, because this is a page that, interestingly enough, all of us should internalize. Sometimes because we didn't raise our hand and say, hey, I'm gonna build the team, and we're part of a team, we don't read the book. But the fact is the book is a book for business owners. So it's great for every single one of us to understand how to operate a leveraged business. But this is a conglomerate of data from a lot of top agents across all brands, across all companies, across all different market types, across all different average sales prices. And Gary Keller collected all that data and said, hey, this is what a typical P&L and budget looks like of the real estate agent. Now here's what they found out. You'll notice that at 5 million, 6 million production, 10 million in production, the only cost of sale, right, people or split that you had in your business was what you're paying the company, right? You're an agent at KW, or your agent at Coldwell Banker, or your agent at any other company, and you pay a company split. Great. Which led you, let's just go down 6 million, which led you to a gross profit. Don't get confused by that, but a gross profit of 88%. But then what they found is people that were running real businesses absolutely had expenses. Now, this is where I had none, right? Because I didn't have salaries. I didn't have a lead gen budget. I didn't have occupancy budget. I was spending nothing on technology. Like my phone, maybe I had a phone, right? Like I spent no money. But the reality is, if we're running a business, then day one, we have to take a step back and say, hey, am I willing to invest 33% of the total commission to build a business? And you'll notice that over time, expense remains the same, fairly similar. I'll share with you, this is an old book, and the new model says that to run a business, expenses have gone up. It's probably closer to 35% potentially. So as you're thinking about your personal profit margin, right, sort of factor that in. But you'll notice that at a certain point in time, cost of sale comes up, right, about 15 million in production. Interestingly enough, that's at about 23, 24, 25, 26 transactions when our leverage model shows up in your world as well. And the reason why we steer away from the leverage model is, well, gosh, I don't want to give any commission up. Like I can just do it. And what happens is we work our way to more income. Why? Because what we care about is top line revenue. And what we see by bringing on cost of sale or a showing assistant is a loss of top line revenue. And what we don't see is that leverage allows us to look at our time differently if we use it properly. But interestingly enough, the day that I decided way back, right, 12, 13, 14 years ago, that I was going to build a team, I said this, and it's part of our culture and the fabric of our company today. I don't want to have any opportunity that every single one of my people don't have. Right? So if as a business owner, I should target a 39% profit margin, 40% profit margin. I want our partners to be able to hit a 40% profit margin. And so now for each of us, what that means is we should be looking at our total revenue, right? We should be looking at any split that we might have, but we should be looking at our profit and go ahead and do some math from last year and divide those numbers and figure out what your profit margin is. What you'll find is you have the same opportunity in a world where a team treats their agents as a partner from a profit perspective as anybody else, as going out and launching a brand new team. MREA page 157 allowed me to see two things. One, I have to be willing to invest in my business. The reason why I couldn't break through a ceiling is I wasn't investing any money in my business. Now, whether I'm a solo agent or a team, that's a choice. And here's the team choice. I'm going to invest that money in my business, whether I'm on this team or not. The book tells you you will. So whether you're on a team or you're off a team, that has to be invested in, which means that the greatest business owners in our industry will get to about a 35 to 40% profit margin. So what was yours last year? It was probably 35 to 40% after you take out your gas money and after you take out MLS fees, if you're paying them. Like truly, when you look at your take home from your commission and you back out some expenses, guess where you sit? 35 to 40%, the same opportunity of running a team. Now, profit allows us to do certain things. And if we don't think about what we want to do with that profit, then we're going to get lost, right? We're going to get lost. And then the only thing we think about is top line revenue. And that becomes a chase for top line revenue. And that's where we see some great agents saying, you know what? I'm going to go out on my own, right? Not see here, but see in the industry. But they wake up and realize, oh, like if an expense margin is 35%, right? And cost of sale is 30%. Well, guess what? I'm going to be right back where I was in terms of my take home. And that is when we wake up and say, I have to decide what I want to do, right, for a living. Do I want to build a sales business, or do I want to build an operational business? Do I want to run ops? Because that is what that is what running a team is. That's operational. But most of us showed up because we are great salespeople. Like we do love sales. We love relationships. And for each of us, we have to internalize that we have the same opportunity in either business. It's just which one do you want to run? What do you want to wake up and do every day? Who do you want to be when you grow up? No matter what, you're going to have those expenses to run a business on a team or on your own. You pay for transaction coordinator and marketing, you pay for brevity, you pay for events, you pay for postcards, you pay for those internet leads, you pay for that office space, you pay for that coach, you paid for, like, I was unwilling to do that early. And so I had an 80% profit business and it was very small, right? It was stuck at a certain level. But the minute I began to invest in the business, then it grew. So for each of us, we have to ask, am I willing to invest in the business? And if I am, because you showed up and said, yes, I am I using the investment? And like, listen, we could pay for brevity as a solo agent or on the team. Like we're paying for it. Are you using it? Right? We pay for leverage on the transaction side. Are we using that? Or do we say, no, I'm just going to run, like, I'm going to do that. I know someone else could, but I'm going to do that. All those things are how we grow as business owners. Now, what do you do with your money? Let's talk about that, because no one wants to talk about that. Where people separate themselves is what they do with their profit over a long period of time, right? Put simply, where people separate themselves, each of us, it's going to come down to what we do with our profit over a long period of time. See, I was a real estate agent, truly just a real estate agent for 6 years. I operated at that 80% profit margin. I decided I was going to be a business owner, and I began to operate at a 40% profit margin. That eventually got me to a net $1 million business. You may not realize this, but we have team members within our organization that last year made $600,000, $700,000, $800,000. This year will make net $1 million. Why? Because our model allows them to be on the same profit margin with the same leverage model as the team owner. So how do we increase our profitability? How do we increase it? Well, actually, let me ask the question. How do you think we increase our profitability? That's one way.
Increase revenue and control expenses.
Yeah, and the first one is the most important, Jordan, because our model definitely controls expenses. So oftentimes the first thing we say is reduce expense, right? And the fact is we've done it, right? Like we have incredible checks and balances as an organization to really run profitable businesses. So then I assure you, in your world, I don't know each of you personally, right? Not all of you, but you probably control your real estate expenses fairly well. There's not a whole lot, except Sarissa, who said she went out and bought shoes, and I'm sure she wrote those off. So that was a real estate expense. But the first thing we ask ourselves usually is, gosh, what expense can I reduce? And probably you don't have a lot of expenses to reduce. So then it's, how do we drive revenue? So in your business, how do you drive revenue?
Sell more.
Wrong answer. I'm just kidding.
Regeneration activities.
Yeah, that is the exact, it's the exact answer we naturally give, because we think, well, how do we generate revenue? We go out and sell more. And to be fair and honest, you do, right? You move from 10 deals to 20 deals to 30 deals to 40 deals. So by definition, you sell more. But here's what I want to show you. Oftentimes, and this is where we get sort of burned out, friends, like we totally do. We've all probably been there. We decide that in order to increase profit, we need to sell more. So what do? We put our head down and increase activity. We increase, our going out on listings, and we increase buyer appointments, and like we just take it on ourselves, and we're like, hey, I'm gonna muscle my way into selling more, which typically takes more of what? Our time. And if we're not careful, the way we increase our profitability is by selling more. And that's why year 2 or year 3 or year 4, sometimes you see top agents on our teams say, oh, that was an amazing year, but I don't think I want to do that again, because they actually traded time for increased profit. Then they look around and they say, there's got to be a better way. And so then they go searching for a better way. And I want you to know there's, I'm going to just share part of our leverage model, but there's no better way, right? Here is the better way. Can you see my screen? I know it's not in presentation mode, but that doesn't matter. Here is the way to increase profitability. You do not increase your profit by spending more time in your business. You do not increase your profit by simply selling more. It is why that leverage model shows up at a certain point in time when you're making enough money such that, like, interestingly enough, on average, the leverage model shows up when you're a 6-figure earner. And I want to come back to that, because I think many of us have lost touch with what being a 6-figure earner means in the world and the country. We think that there are so many 6-figure earners in the country. Go and pull up your city reports on your government website. Like, you're talking about 9%, 8% of a city making 6-figure, and that's familial income, guys. That means there could be 2 people bringing home 50. Like, you are a unique breed. Like, you have a unique opportunity, but we're not going to increase our profit by working more. So this is how much you're going to work to close a buyer deal, right? 3 hours of lead gen typically leads to a buyer consult. You'll show homes for about 10 hours. I get it. It's been about 15 or 20. So goes to show, like, we need to move through this leverage model. Offer negotiation about an hour, inspections and appraisals, right? Being involved in it. If we are the one that's involved in about 4 hours, the closing is at about an hour. Honestly, you're not getting out of that transaction for less than 20 hours. Would you agree with that? Anyone have a problem with these numbers? So if your average commission, right? I think this was based on an average home sale of $300,000, right? So maybe yours is higher, maybe it's lower. You figure that out. But an hourly rate of $225 in that transaction, fair? The only way you increase your profitability is by increasing your hourly rate. I would like to think that we all show up all in, right? I would like to think that we don't expect to make $100,000 working 20 hours a week. So just go back and look at your schedule for the last couple of weeks and say, hey, how much time did I put in? Listen, like, nobody's going to sign up for a job, go to a paper, look at the help wanted ads and say $100,000, 5 hours a week, 10 hours a week, right? Show up on Monday and Tuesday, take Wednesday to Friday off. Yet, like if you look at our time and our schedule, that is what we are doing. It's crazy, right? And it's why the average real estate agent made less than $40,000. It isn't our industry, right? It isn't that there's too many of us. Fact. It's just that we are not willing to put in the 40 hours. And quite honestly, we think, no, Chris, in order to make six figures, you need to put in, 50 hours or 60 hours or 70 hours. No, you don't. I promise. No, you don't. If you use our leverage model, but it's just not people. It's if you're plugging into our systems, if you're really using our tools. See, so much of what you do every day could be done for you if we plug into systems and tools, which drive profitability, because that's the first part of leverage. So now all of a sudden our leverage model says, what if you just added a showing assistant? Keep in mind, our model says that comes after you're at 6-figure income, which means you're in the upper echelon of all income earners in the country. And you say, okay, it's time to build a business. It's time to increase my profitability. And now look at the time invested in that buyer transaction if you run it the right way. Are you lead generating? Sure you are. Are you doing the buyer consult? You probably are. Are you showing? No. Are you negotiating? Yes. Are you showing up for closing? I hope so, right? Yes, potentially. So you're at about 5 hours and your showing assistant is about 15 hours. Now, I don't know about you, but both of those hourly wages are pretty darn good. There is no less than as a showing agent, right? A showing agent could and should potentially make $90, $100 an hour. Again, go on Craigslist and find what job you would need, find what degree you would need to make $100 an hour. Our opportunity here is massive, but you notice what happened. If you're spending 5 hours on this buyer and you're committed to working 40 hours a week, right? We're not coasting. Like leverage is not luxury. Like, hey, got myself some leverage now. And what do we see slip in? Well, I'm not showing up to power hour anymore. Like, I'm not showing up for team meeting. Like, I don't need to come in the mornings. My showing assistant is there. Be careful, because you're not going to increase your profit. You did potentially increase your hourly wage, but because you're only working 20 hours instead of 40. But see, for me, when I went through that process, I said, am I willing to put in 40 hours? Am I willing to put in 50 hours? If I was, guess how many deals I could close now on the buy side? I go from 2 to 4. I go to 2 deals a month to 5 deals a month. Do you see what happens to your profitability? It only happens if we commit to thinking about our business differently, as we think about the profitability of running a real estate business and not the commission of running a real estate business. So let's take a moment, and I want to hear what you're thinking as you look at page 157, profitability, expenses, right? On a team, off a team, and you start thinking about the leverage model. Anyone want to share? Any ahas jump out?
I'll share.
Awesome.
Sarissa posted that the #1 agent started as a showing agent, and that was me. I was her showing agent when I started, and it taught me a lot. And now I have my own showing agent and my own assistant. And honestly, the first time I added an assistant, what it gave me back was my energy and my sanity. So I think, like, in addition to making more money, I also just like had better quality of life, not working 16-hour days, all that sort of stuff. So that's also a huge bonus.
Yeah, I love that. Elizabeth, the reason why you work 16-hour days is because you were driven and you had goals and you wanted to make more money. And so if we're not careful, we go through these moments, and there's always going to be these flex moments where we're working more than we could, but we're going through a phase of our business progression. Like, listen, to be honest, that is right now for me. Like, what we're doing with Place is this phase of all in. So I'm working, I'm not gonna tell you that I'm working 40-hour weeks today, but that's because we're going through a growth phase and adding the leverage. Like, I spend most of my time interviewing, right? So for you say, hey, I want to make more money. I'm gonna sell more houses. And so my 8-hour days, 9 or 10-hour days turned into 15, 16. hopefully after today for a short period of time, which then we go back to that 8 or 9, but triple our hourly income if we stay focused on what you as the business owner, because you're not a real estate agent anymore, you as the business owner need to do. Adelina?
Yeah, so it's gosh, I think what I'm seeing, or maybe potentially where some of a lot of concerns around this have happened, is the last couple of years have been really good years of easy money, if you will. I mean, like, not that it wasn't hard, right? And there's two perspectives. It was easy money on the salary side of this whole world. Like, it's all been good. I mean, stock market has been great, real estate market's been great. It's all like the Fed made sure it was all great. And then also on the real estate side, I mean, like, we have sold houses and made more money than we've ever made, most of us. How do you see all of that changing? What are your thoughts on how easy or not easy it's going to be, and the importance of really, gosh, pivoting if we are not using the leverage that we have on our teams, going from systems, models, and tools? Like, what are your thoughts on all of this? I mean, because is it changing, or is it just changing in Austin?
No, it's going to change. And here's why. You feel it in Austin more. And that's because Austin became the next Silicon Valley. But what makes Silicon Valley? It's money. Like, that's what makes it Silicon Valley. There were private equity and public equity that flowed into businesses, and businesses, because it wasn't money that their business earned, they were not profitable. They said, yeah, oh gosh, in order to get you, Adelina, it's going to cost me $250. I'll pay you $250. And then they're like, oh my gosh, I just made $250. And so then everybody in the company, if they're at $250, the next person's at $2 or at $150. Like, we have a false sense of salaries because a lot of money got flowed into certain cities, but just business in general. So that's the first thing. That also allowed people to spend money like on housing. Like, for the first time, they're like, oh my gosh, I could afford that house now. So their income went up, the interest rate was low, and because the Fed did not want to go into a recession. Now we look back and like, oh gosh, what did we just create? But there was this massive ability to afford way more in housing than they ever could. So people bought on whims. Like, it was easy to get buyers to buy. Truly, I know it wasn't easy to get sellers to sell, but yeah, I think we need to take a step back and say, here's where we win. I think those salaries are going away, and here's why. Because as they use up their money, there isn't a lot of money coming behind it. Right? Usually, right, and you get a Series A and you get infused with cash, and then there's a B and a C and a D, and these companies just keep on getting infused with cash and infused with cash and infused with cash. Wall Street woke up and said, hey, this is super messy. Like, we haven't gotten a return. Remember, they only give money as if they think they're going to get a 10, 11, 12, 15, 50% return. They've gotten zero return because those businesses have not yet been profitable for the most part. Like, 80% have not been profitable. If they raised money in 19, 20, or 21, 80% of those companies have not turned a profit. So did anyone get any money back? No. So salaries, right? That's where you begin to see people getting laid off. And I'm not painting a morbid picture of our economy. Here's where I'm excited. The fact is we are not going to sell 6.1 million homes this year. We're going to sell 5.5 million. With that said, that is enough homes for every single one of us in our entire organization to have the best year ever. However, we just have to be willing to focus on following the playbook, right? Systems, tools, models. And if we're not, we can't expect the six figures. I am the guy that came to the organization and said, hey, the only thing I want to talk about is per agent productivity. Why? Because I think in this industry, everybody should be a six-figure earner. Everybody could be a six-figure earner. We have built our entire organization around six-figure earners. So when Sarissa says, yeah, I just looked up Dallas and it's 8.8%, makes sense, right? I said any city, it's pretty much 8%. Like, we should be at 90%. right? We should be at 75%. And the only reason why you're not is because you show up and say, hey, Chris, like, I actually, this is what I want to do when I grow up. I want to sell 12 houses a year, right? I want to sell 10 houses this year because of where I am with my family. My kids going off to college I want to continue to partner, but I don't want to sell 24 houses. Okay, fine. Like we can support you if that's truly your goal. But the fact is, if we do not internalize like what it really takes to get to the six figures, some of us are heading for an awakening of, oh my gosh, I thought it was easy. I thought six figures was easy. I thought six figures was coffee at 9 a.m. and a lunch date at 12:30 and happy hour at 4:30. Like, it is not. Nobody making six figures has that life. Truly. Not when they're building a business. So that's why focusing on profit matters. I think, Adelina, one of the books I just reread was Benjamin Graham's The Intelligent Investor. And here's why, because Warren Buffett said it's his favorite, right? It was one of his favorite books. It's always on his desk. In there, I'm going to correlate this to our real estate industry and our businesses. In there, he said there's a difference between an investor and a speculator. Now, some of us, Helen, show up as an investor. Interestingly enough, if you decide to sell that home, Helen, and I'm picking on you, Helen, because you can take it. But if you decide to sell that home, you're a speculator. Like, I'm going to buy this house, I'm going to hope for it to go up, and I'm going to take that cash. Investors are not seeking a massive return in a short duration of time. Like, write that down. Like, investors do not seek a massive return in a short duration of time. Some of you, you're 2 years into your career and you're seeing a massive return. Be careful that you don't become a speculator. You're the real estate speculator. Well, I think if I just show up and, Adelina, send me some leads and I'll close them. Like, it doesn't work that way. We are looking for a reasonable return on our investment. In that book, Benjamin Graham said investment is, let me get this right. Investment is promoting the safety of the principal and an adequate return. Now, what is our principle? It's our activities. Like, that is what we need to protect. Like, your principle is the time that, like, look at those two charts on the leverage model. Like, it's your 20 hours today, maybe, or your 5 hours today. Are you protecting them? Are you protecting the 20 hours? Money is just paper currency. Like, and that's Adelina's point. Like, hey, I'm looking around and it seems like there's a lot of paper currency. Yeah, because we printed a ton of it. Like, it looks like there's a lot of paper currency issued by the government. But here's what I want you guys to know. When I talk about profit, if you don't have a purpose for it, I know some of you, and it is sitting somewhere. The more you hold, the less it is worth. Our greatest opportunity in this industry and this business is to be surrounded by people in this room, because they teach us how to think about money. They teach, Helen, like, what an amazing story. Like, my gosh, my husband and I were getting ready to sell this. I listened to a wealth building series. Are you kidding me? And I decided to, mission accomplished. Like, mission accomplished, because your wealth, your long-term wealth will change because of that one decision. Now, the reason why we don't do that, it's the psychology of investing. We're scared. Like, Helen, you even said it. We're scared to take that on. But here's what I want to share with you. Is it okay, Adelina, to just have a big picture money conversation? Like, I feel like we've had.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
What's a limited resource? Like, when you hear that, like when we talk about it, when the government talks about limited resources in the country, when Russia and Ukraine talk about limited resource, yeah, it's something that there's no more of, right? Or there's going to be a limit to. If we're not careful, our mind allows us to believe that everything is a limited resource. Some believe that earning money is a limited resource. They argue that there's only so much of it. It's the people that are super scared about commissions going down. It's the scarcity mindset of brokers or agents that are doing weird things just to get the deal. It is why there's so much scarcity in our industry. It's limited resource thinking. Earning money is not a limited resource. Naval says that knowledge is what makes resources infinite. Knowledge is what makes resources infinite. Now this is why that speaks to us and me personally, because by being here, the way that we think, the knowledge that we receive turns our resources to infinite resources. For any resource on the planet, there might be a finite amount. He tells a story, actually. He said that here's a good example. Back in the day, when they were making those TVs that today you watch billions on, they used europium. Now it's like, we're like, what's that? It doesn't matter because there's no more of it. But they used europium to create the color TV. Naval tells this story. He said, but there was a finite amount of it on the planet. So they looked and they said, oh my gosh, we're only going to have so many color TVs. At a certain point in time, there would be no more color TVs. Can you imagine? For some of you, I don't know what you would do. However, that was only if we didn't expand our knowledge and figure out a different way to create and build and produce TVs in different ways. There's no limit to resources out there. There's only a limit to knowledge and how to create a finite resource into a limited resource. I want you to know it's what we wake up and think about every single day. There is no limit to the number of homes that each of our agents can sell in their marketplace, regardless of what happens with interest rates, regardless of what happens with salary. The fact is if a bunch of people lose their jobs, guess what's going to happen? They're going to need to sell their home. The good news is they bought it 2 years ago and they already have 100 grand in equity. Like, the interesting thing is that no matter what, you happen to be in an industry that will always move. It doesn't matter what happened, recession, war, like, it doesn't matter. Like, we always sell 5.5 million homes. The real story is that with knowledge, any resource is infinite. We just have to figure out how to make that infinite. And I think that pushes on me, right? As a partner to you, to make sure that we're looking at how do we expand our knowledge in creating wealth and opportunity for future home sale. I mean, Brivity is a system and a tool, right? That makes commission infinite. I promise you, like, every single one of us. I got a text this morning from Hannah in Portland and said, she was super down, right? We all get there. And she said, I can't believe Mark Silent listed his Lake Oswego townhouse. This is like a decade ago. I worked with them. I handed them off to Hannah. Hannah sold them this townhome, not with her. They listed it with someone else. And she goes, I feel terrible. I'm so sorry. And I'm like, listen, don't be sorry. Like, that's education. Like, you just went to school and we went to school because if we showed up and even an hour and a half every single day and followed our Brivity plan on those past clients, guess what? You would have at least known he was choosing someone else. He would have said, oh my goodness, I have this really best friend that got it. Like, listen, we would have at least known. Nobody likes to find those. We all have them. I promise you, there's probably one for each of you that listed or bought yesterday. You just don't know yet, but you will find out. Make that resource unlimited, infinite. Fair? Any questions? You wanna open it up for questions, Adelina?
I love that. I feel like we could be here all day with questions, but top 2, 3, just unmute yourself.
I absolutely love that your profit is a backwards indicator from your production. What you do today will show up and tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
That's a fact.
I like you, Valencia. You say it well.
Elizabeth.
Chris, a lot of the stuff you talked about today I'd heard before in your time and money class, which I absolutely love. Do you and Ben ever plan to do that again, or maybe allow us to teach it? Because that's seriously one of the classes that changed my world.
Maybe we should do that in Phoenix. Next time we're all in Phoenix. That would be awesome, actually.
Yes.
I'll connect with Ben on that. And if not, we could roll that out on a Friday, perhaps. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Sometimes I forget.
It's a good perspective. Last call, questions.
I think my biggest thing, we've just lost our second buyer partner, and finding somebody who's an Elizabeth, essentially, who matches that intensity and wanting to work 40, 50, 60 hours a week, whatever it takes, while also feeling like a true value partner. And this might be a different call for a different day, but what would be your one biggest, besides of course, career visioning and all of that, how are you finding these individuals that match that?
Yeah, I think it's just like buyers or sellers. If we really go down and ask how many people did I talk to before I selected one, we may realize that we just have not had enough conversations. The other side, Alicia, is we don't show them this. We have not internalized that model to show them that you're offering them a $90 to $100 an hour opportunity, that you are partnering with them, that you are not going to give up your 2 hours of lead gen, that you are partnering with them to make sure that they are on pace for $90 an hour. Like, I promise you, there are people in the marketplace. The majority of agents in your MLS are not making that. So I think it's just learning how to communicate the opportunity of being a partner with you. And too often, even by title, they feel like they're taking a step backwards. And in fact, they should be taking a step forward in hourly rate along with you. And be careful. I'm all about, you know me, I'm all about doing whatever it takes. But right now in our world, people probably aren't going to want to hear, are you willing to work 60 hours a week? Because they may not be. And that's only because they don't have any purpose to today. Listen, if we're purpose-driven, mission-driven people, I'm looking at some faces here. You're putting in 40, 50, 60 hours. And it's not because you're overworking yourself. You're on a mission. You're building wealth for your family to do that. So I think that for me, it is always showing how our systems, tools, and models were built around building experiential lives. But listen, like, time doesn't immediately equate to experience. Like, I think that's how I grew up. Like, my dad was a copier repairman. Right? He was an employee for 50 years. Like, it wasn't that he necessarily didn't have time, but he had no money. Like, he made $45,000 a year for his entire life, like taking care of a family of 5. Like, so we didn't have any experiences. So an experiential life absolutely demands that we make a profit. And that's what I think is important, to have a conversation with them, that you're partnering in the profitability of that business, and you wind up getting a different level of talent. Remember, their opportunity model is the same opportunity model that you have, right? And there are some great showing assistants and showing partners in this organization that honestly, they're making 6 figures. Right? I think of 3 off the top of my head that I've had conversations with in the last 2 weeks, 6-figure showing partners for sure. Ashley? Oh, Adelina.
No, Ashley.
Hi, sorry if I sound weird because I'm on the road, but
You're talking to me. I sound weird.
So I just want to say, like, I'm Maria's buyer partner, and something that she did for me was like put it on me. So like, let's hit these milestones, and like, this is where we go next. This is the next step. And so for me, it was like, okay, like, I'm a very process oriented person. So like, seeing what the next step is, and once I do this, then I get this in return, and her really making me feel like her partner, and not necessarily like her assistant, or like somebody that's like, really, she put me next to her, and like, not even just like us talking in the office, or just us between us, but like, to every client, to every person that we speak to, like, this is my partner in business. We work together. This is like an extension of myself. And so like, giving me that really gave me the confidence right out of the gate. And like I said, like, knowing that there's steps and stuff coming next, and if I do A, B, and C, that's going to lead to more profitability, and for me to have more time with my family. And yeah, so I think like that part was really important, and she really is just like such a great leader whenever it comes to that.
Really, that's really helpful. Sorry, that's really helpful. to hear from the other perspective, right? So that answers the question, like from someone that is all in that role, what attracted you to it and what keeps you moving forward. Bart?
You mentioned earlier that you came from nothing, and I think financial adversity as a kid is one of the greatest things that can happen to you as an adult. Problem is, not everybody goes through that. I didn't have any financial adversity as a kid, and I had a parent who I love very much, but she's also very controlling with money. So I had a negative image of money and was not money motivated. I had a team leader named Christy Broussard, who is a wonderful woman. I adore her very much. And she finally got it to where one day we were trying to set money goals and I just was fighting back. I gave 10% of everything away, and she got it to where we finally started setting goals around how much money I was going to give away. And so all I want to say is, if you are running a team, understand everybody doesn't have the same relationship to money as you do. And you may be money motivated because of where you came from, and they may not be. Figure out what makes them tick and how they get motivated around income and money and all of those items.
Yeah, I love that. I'll end with two things. One from Charlie Munger, such a funny guy. He says, becoming wealthy is really boring. Charlie said, I got wealthy by waiting, right? Like, which means not making brash decisions, but by waiting, he was working, right? It's boring. It's consistent work. And then Warren Buffett says this. He says, outstanding results in wealth building come from 4 factors. We all have these 4, and it's the level to which we commit to these 4 that's gonna drive our wealth. Intellect, okay? So outstanding results in wealth building come from intellect. Effort. Does your effort match your intellect? You have everything you need here, right? Like you have a wealth of intellect available and open. Like in the chat, like, hey, can I grab some of your time? Yes, like that's awesome, right? Intellect, effort, research, right? Knowing that your leaders and your partners are out there researching everything that's going on in the marketplace right now. And then the 4th one, get ready, because this is where we are, and it's the greatest one. The number of market swings you get the opportunity to experience. They are wildly wealthy based on the number of market swings they got to experience. Intellect, effort, research, market swings. That drives wealth.
So we should be excited about this market swing then. This is an opportunity for us.
100%.
Oh, I love it.
Yes, let's go.
Oh, we're ready. All right. Guys, thank you so much. Chris, super awesome. I will send this this link out immediately after, and also the chat box, so you guys can look through there and pick up anything that you guys liked. Remind you guys that Tuesday is Converted with Valencia. Valencia did such an amazing job, girlfriend. Such a pleasure. There were like 450 something people on this week. So if you somehow missed it and you forgot that every Tuesday this month, we have Converted with Valencia, who is such a queen in this. And Jordan, thank you so much for hiring Valencia, developing Valencia. Valencia, for you being willing to share with all of us. That was awesome. No Texas Power Up next week. We have Red Day. I know each of you are probably doing things in your area. In Austin, we're welcoming the homeless home. You guys, I would love to see like what you guys are doing. It's going to be awesome. And then when we come back the following Thursday, we have Kimberly, who's going to talk about events. And so as the market swings, we may need to adjust how we do our events. And so excited to hear from her, excited for what you guys are building. Thank you so much, Chris, for just giving us so much of your time. We already have you on Fridays, so this is just such a special treat, and we are so appreciative. Everyone, have an awesome rest of your week. We'll see you in 2 weeks at 8:30. Bye, guys.